Hey, Michael, welcome to the show. Is Way of Getting Started. Tell us about yourself.
Hey Brian, thanks for inviting me. So I'm Michael Hansen, currently the VP of Growth at a company called CloudTask. We do outsourced sales and customer service, actually out of Medellin, Colombia, mainly servicing US and European clients. And yeah, really grateful and honored to be here as I've been following your videos for a long time, Brian, and like the kind of comedic value that you bring to sales. I think it's a good tactic.
Yeah, I think we have to laugh sometimes. Otherwise, it becomes painful. How'd you get into sales?
Funnily enough, I actually started more in marketing. So my sales journey has only really started in CloudTask. But before that, all my experience was in marketing and content marketing, always kind of working very closely with, business development reps, with sales reps. And then there got a point where I just kind of wanted to get into sales, and we were like a young growing company. So it was an easy transition. So yeah, I went from basically, doing website copy, Facebook ads, digital advertising to getting on demos. I kind of skipped the part of being a business development rep, which I kind of always feel bad by. Like I didn't do a lot of the cold calling, like a very millennial. You'll see a lot of people complaining now that young people aren't cold calling anymore.
Yeah.
But even I kind of started more as, like an account executive or on the business development rep. I do cold calling still myself because I'd like to kind of develop that skill. And I'm one of those that I think actually like opening now is almost harder than closing. So, I do make cold calls. It's just I'm not doing like $100 a day.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of me.
Cool. And what was it like going from marketing, which is a very different beast, right?
Yeah.
To sales, because in marketing, certainly you get treated better, don't you?
Yeah, yeah, it's true. One of the big things actually was I think in sales you're actually a lot more involved in the operations
Yeah.
because you're the one handing off the lead to operations. When things go wrong, the clients always go to you. They don't go to the operations team. I like to build very good relationships with everyone that I work with. So because of that, they'll always come to me when things go wrong. But in terms of the transition, it was actually quite easy. I've always been kind of like a people person. And I think, a lot of sales is about building relationships. And then also the fact that I think because sales and marketing is so aligned, the fact that I understood marketing and
Yeah.
there's obviously that age-old battle where marketing is saying, hey, sales, you're not touching my leads enough times. And then sales is saying, hey, marketing, your leads are rubbish. So I kind of understood that battle, and I was already very aligned with our marketing team. So the transition was great. And to be honest, obviously this is a sales podcast. I've enjoyed working in sales more than marketing. I feel like I'm
Yeah.
going to stay in sales now. But yeah, the transition was actually okay.
That's it. I've seen a couple of sales guys go into marketing. I never understood that. I can
Yeah.
understand it maybe later in career, or you get burnt out, or you just need to change a life, or life's priorities change. Because I got kind of a marketing degree, CS in marketing, and I never had a marketing job. I do probably more marketing now than I do sales.
Yeah.
And but what was it like that first month or two in sales? Was it emotionally grinding, or was it
Yeah.
natural, or?
So I think I kind of missed something out. So yeah, as I said, CloudTask, we have basically our HQ in Colombia, Medellin. We're a US registered company, but we're about 200 people. I'd say 180 are over there in Colombia, doing most of the operations side. And I was living in Colombia for about 2.5 years. I
Wow.
just moved back to the UK in March this year. But what would happen is, because I'm like a business person as well as, a sales person, a marketer, whatever, I would always say, book me some meetings when I go to London or when I go to the UK. And I can be like, European salesman, even though I was a marketing person. So I actually closed a couple of deals, just even though I wasn't in sales, like going into when I would because I'd go home for like twice a year for 1 month at times, maybe spending 2 months a year in the UK. Obviously, London, UK is a big market. And I managed to set up meetings, like take it through the sales process. And then I thought, I can do this. I'm not even like really making a big effort at the moment. So that's kind of the transition. I kind of had the confidence already because I'd had a couple of deals behind me. So there wasn't, I think there's always that big pressure when you become an account executive or a deal closer from a sales development rep is, closing that first deal. And I've seen a lot of people go through that. They're like very anxious to do it, whereas I kind of didn't. I was fortunate. And I think that's where I said that I feel like now almost opening is harder than closing, because really once I had those meetings in London, the client had the need, they had the budget. So actually my job of closing the deal was actually quite easy. So.
Yeah. And what do you like about sales?
I like the human element a lot.
The interaction?
Exactly. I love going on site, meeting people on site. Even though obviously inside sales is a huge thing now. I've closed a lot of deals. I'm still working a lot with the US market, even though I'm in London, taking calls at like 11 p.m. with California.
Oh boy.
But I do love going on site, meeting someone in person, building a relationship, making a difference as well to people, seeing them, make more money or, have a good service. So I think it's really that human element, which I think good marketers have that human element as well, like surveying their customers, working with the sales team. Obviously, sales is just a lot more hands-on.
Yeah, and you like that hands-on part of it.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. I think one of the things that frustrated me massively as a marketer was, making good content or
And
getting good
not having
marketing
that connection.
and not getting the revenue at the end of it,
Yeah.
So I think that was part of the reason I went into sales. It was like, I want to directly affect the bottom line, not just, hey, we got 100 MQLs and they turn to X number of meetings, and maybe they did turn to a deal, but you're not the one actually converting that deal. So it was good to, and I think because I'd done the first bit, doing the second bit as well was a bit easier.
Cool. And you have kind of an entrepreneurial background too, right? You started your own thing. Is that true? Or
Yeah, so I actually moved to Colombia to start a project called In Motion, which is effectively a renewable technology to generate electricity through human movement. It's something we're still developing at the moment, but it was kind of harder than I'd expected. It's a very kind of ambitious project. And I actually started with Cloud Task just as a content writer. So I basically used to be a freelance content writer, had several clients, and then kind of as Cloud Task grew, I decided to go full-time into Cloud Task and then went into sales. So my experience really is in like content marketing for like 4 or 5 years. So sales is actually relatively new, but something I'm really enjoying. And as I said, I really feel like I found what I want to do. Like even if you start your own business, you still have to find what's the thing that you want to do within that business. Yeah. And for me, I think it would definitely be sales now. So.
Cool. And what's your day like? How much of your day is like with existing accounts, trying to get new accounts on the phone versus email?
I would say majority of my day is nurturing people I've already got in the pipeline. Yeah. So just to give you a bit more detail about Cloud Task, our main service that we have is effectively like an outsourced business development rep or sales development rep. And we very much practice what we preach. So we're using sales development reps to sell Cloud Task as well. So I'm very fortunate to have a good team that is setting me up lots of meetings. So I have a good pipeline. So I try to stay very focused on those accounts, because I think if you've got a good pipeline, it's very easy for leads to fall through the cracks. Yeah. So I'm typically focusing on that as well. I think there's a lot of stuff at the moment about, and there's all this great technology, like SalesLoft, Outreach, about the cadence to use to get a meeting, but not that many people are actually talking about the cadence after the meeting. Like once you've given a demo, right, what's the cadence after that? I think a lot of people are just kind of blagging it at the moment, and I've got like a specific cadence that I use. So I'm working a lot on that. And then I think the rest of the day is, doing some prospecting. Again, working with the sales development rep, saying, hey, I've got these leads. A big thing I do as well, actually, is there's a lot of sales development reps are often, once a meeting is booked, they're kind of, people will step back and say, okay, get me other meetings. But what I do, sometimes I have a demo and I take them through my cadence. But I don't have a lot of time to be constantly calling them. So I actually get a lot of our SDRs to call people who I've already got in the pipeline and get a meeting, because people are so busy nowadays that, it's not that they don't want to speak to you, it's just you haven't touched them enough times. So.
And who are you calling on? Is it VPs of sales or marketing or both? Or
Yeah, both. So what's quite interesting actually, so as I said, we're selling SDRs, and when we first did it, we generally targeting, yeah, heads of sales, VPs of sales, CEOs when it was smaller companies as well.
Yeah.
But what we've seen happening, especially in like the software and tech industry, is the BDR teams actually now falling under marketing and a
Yeah.
lot of times under demand generation. So we've started targeting that a lot more. And often we prefer those companies because often they've got a good like marketing engine. So when you're doing like an outbound approach, obviously if someone already has awareness of the company, it's a lot easier to get those meetings.
And who was easier to work with? Is it VPs of sales or VPs of marketing?
I would say salespeople, just because they pick up the phone. Marketing people are very difficult to get on the phone. Whereas salespeople, they're obviously thinking anyone that calls them is
It's buying.
a
Yeah.
sale, right? Whereas
Yeah.
the marketing people, they're just like emails, LinkedIn. So, yeah,
And how do you get their, I guess the SDR gets their interest. How do you keep that cadence going? That you've had the meeting,
yeah.
they like it. I'm sure it's a great idea. It's a great option for them, but it doesn't, they just don't go running down to procurement and get you a PO, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm typically touching them like every 2 days across different channels. So I would always follow up with an email, typically straight after, but within 24 hours maximum. Then if I haven't heard from them, may send another email or LinkedIn message, and then 4 days later I'll like give them a call, and I'll kind of repeat that process. And often what I'll do, because I see a lot of salespeople just sending a lot of emails, hey, did you see my proposal? Hey,
Right? Did you
hey,
get
can
my
we get?
last
Yeah, did you
spam?
get my last email? What I'll do, we've got various bits of content that we know are very useful to our clients. So I'll always throw in a few emails, which is like, hey, I thought you'd like this. And it's funny actually, because often when I'm saying, hey, can we get on another call? They don't respond. And then my next email is like, oh, I saw this report with these metrics that I thought would be of interest. They're like, oh, thanks for sending that. Can we get on a call? So it's funny, often when you don't ask for the call, they'll actually come onto the call.
Right. I mean, you have to, I mean, because they'll only talk to you if they have to or want to. So you have
Yeah,
to get into that want to.
exactly.
Yeah. And you find content as a tool there, or are you looking for a hook, something that they care about, that they want to talk more about?
Yeah, that. So I think that's where I said my marketing background has been really
Yeah.
useful, because I know our content very well, and I'm also in touch with the marketing team a lot, saying I think we need this particular content. And then, yeah, the content that I'm sharing, it's twofold. One, it's something that's very useful to their day to day that they can apply to their day to day. And two, it's related to a need that we solve.
Yeah.
So, for example, we share this report often, that's made by the Bridge Group in Boston, a big like sales development consultancy, and it talks about how the average ramp up time for an SDR is 4 months. And that kind of helps us because we're saying, we can beat that ramp up time. And it also sets like realistic goals because some clients come on and they say, we want the SDR to get 30 appointments in month 2, or they have unrealistic expectations. So that kind of content is already going down that path as well.
And I think that marketing background, having you probably firsthand built some of that content so you understand the problem that they are experiencing and you can talk to that. Where I think
Yeah,
most account execs are just trying to explain who you are, what you do, and how much it costs.
yeah, no, exactly. If I'm speaking to a marketing person, I guess it works both ways. If I'm speaking to a marketing person, I can say, "Hey, I used to work in marketing. I understand these are your challenges." And then if I'm speaking to a salesperson, I'm speaking to them as a salesperson. And I think that makes life more difficult as well because the salesperson is always going to judge you on the way you're selling, obviously, because they're a salesperson as well. So.
Yeah. But you'd be able to talk to the problem that you solve. You solve the time because
Yeah,
they can hire and train, but that takes forever, and that
yeah,
takes up their time away from
exactly.
selling.
It sounds like you're pitching Cloud Task now, Brian. You're
Well, I
basically saying
understand
what
the
I said.
problem, and
Yeah,
believe me, I help people do this all day
yeah,
because most reps stick with who we are, what we do, how's it
yeah.
work.
Yeah, I'm always focusing on the problem, which is, as you said, it's the coaching, training, management, hiring, onboarding.
Yeah.
So those are the problems, and those are the things that we do. And funnily enough, they're still a problem for us as well. They're a problem for any company. So we have the same problems that our clients have as well. So it's just that we take on those responsibilities.
And what do you see? I'm sure you see different motives from a CMO to a CSO, where the CSO cares because they both have like an 18-month life expectancy.
Yeah.
And do you judge that? We go on LinkedIn to see where they are in that life expectancy, to see what you talk to them about.
I don't normally do the full life expectancy, a big what we call a compelling event. So like if I'm selling Cloud Task, and also if we're doing SDR services for clients, a compelling event for us is someone's just changed job, because often
Yeah.
they're looking to implement something new. They've got a budget to spend. So that's a big compelling event. So I will look, if they've just changed job, they've just started at a role. Okay, all right, this is juicy. One, you can congratulate them. You can say, what are your plans? But really, I haven't really thought about that, typically it's 18 months. So if they're at like 14 months, they may be near the end of their tenure, but that's definitely something I'll look out for in future.
Yeah, because I've sold to that persona quite a bit, and especially the quarterly one for the sales leaders, right?
Yeah,
Because right now we're probably in not a great time to be reaching out to them, but
yeah,
January 1st, perfect, right?
yeah,
You know where they landed on the end of the year. They got a whole year's budget ahead of them. They're looking to do something new.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and we this is still quite a good time, because we're finding a lot of these bigger companies, they're already planning next year for 2020. So we've had really good campaigns where we've said, around November, October time, as you're preparing your budget for 2020, it'd be good to have a conversation and see if there's like any synergies, very high level, and then you can kind
Yeah.
of go into a conversation.
And do you find, who's your competition? Is it in-house mostly?
No, there's a lot of
A lot
people
of
in our
people
space
do it.
actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's various competitors. I'm not going to mention them now, because then
No,
people
I know.
will really
Yeah. I mean, anywhere from one person to big companies and stuff that do it.
yeah.
But do they go out? I think it would be the type of business, if you built a relationship, they might do a market survey, but they won't engage the other companies. Is that true, or is it?
Yeah, well, it varies. Sometimes I'll get a customer or a sale that's, they'll just come to me. They'll just come to Cloud Task. I'll build a relationship with them. They won't go to anyone else. Sometimes it's because they really like what we're doing, and they're like, we don't even need to bother with anyone else.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just because they're not the kind of person that will assess 10 people. They're just going to look at one. It's just a personality thing. And then I've had other times where they're literally assessing 15 vendors. So when you win those ones, you're always quite happy with yourself.
And how do you keep them away from price?
um, in terms of yeah,
Well,
could you
yeah,
expand a bit
sure.
more?
Because everyone naturally will push down to price when they're looking at something. They look at everything as they think it's equal,
Yeah,
right? And because I'm sure however you charge, it's
yeah,
probably similar to how other people charge.
sure,
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, no, our pricing is quite open, considering we're like a service company, because generally, obviously, software companies are more fixed pricing.
yeah,
Service companies don't. We made our pricing quite transparent, which we think actually worked well. Also, when we actually increased our pricing, this was a long time ago now. It's funny because it was almost like we started doing much better because people took us more seriously. And we did it from a business point of view, for a profitability point of view, because we were worth what we were doing. But it's almost that thing of, like if you go in cheaper, people don't take you seriously. So we, like any company, there's kind of that benchmark, that the company policy is you can't go below this. But I'm quite firm with, our wholesale pricing as well. So.
right. Because it's value, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
if you win on price, then they don't understand the difference.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah,
that's normally what I'm pick. Obviously, our goal is to get qualified meetings. So I'll always say, you can use us and get these number of qualified meetings, or you can use a competitor. And often even a competitor will promise more qualified meetings, and I'll be like, they're not going to, if
yeah.
they're telling you they're going to get 30 meetings in month two, they're lying. So
They're going to waste your time.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And where do your deals typically get stuck? If you looked at your pipeline, you're like,
Yeah.
Jesus, it always gets stuck there.
In terms of like what's kind of a biggest objection of our clients or
Not an
more, yeah,
objection. Like say you have a great meeting
yeah.
and then it gets into your cadence, but it's not closing.
Yeah, I find, yeah, kind of enterprise deals, there's a lot of bureaucracy.
Yeah.
So and this is why account-based marketing is such a big thing. So you know, it's when, okay, you've convinced one person, but then you realize he's not the budget holder and you have to go to another budget holder. So I think how sales has evolved, I think a lot of sales cycles have got longer and there's a lot more people involved in the buying chain. So I think I saw, in B2B, there's typically like 9
Easy. Yeah.
influencers, but I've worked on deals where there's been like 30 people involved. It's been crazy. So.
Yeah. And what's the typical sales timeline from a great first meeting to closure? Is it 90 days, 120?
I would say, yeah, typically about 90 days. I've had sales cycles that have literally been like a week, and then I've had others that have been a year. So it really depends. But I'd say, yeah, on average about 3 months.
And what do you feel differentiates you from the average rep? What's kind of, is it focus? Is it motivation? Is it your ability to connect with other people?
Yeah, I think as I said, I'm good at building relationships with people, and then I also think it's just being organized. Like I have as I said, I feel like a lot of account executives, deal closers, they don't have the organization that we expect of SDRs. We give an SDR a cadence and we expect they're going to follow that cadence, whereas I think a lot of account executives don't. And I have a very strict cadence, like the following month, because I often think once you've had a meeting with a lead, that lead's even more important. That's someone that's literally has awareness of what you're doing now.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, that organization and just persistence. So I'm going to send them a LinkedIn message, I'm going to call them, and it's just keeping that. And obviously what we're doing is sales work, so as I said, we're getting judged on it. And I've had a couple of customers tell me, like, when they've been with other vendors, saying, one of the reasons we signed up is because of how you followed up with me. And it's amazing because they said there were some other vendors who literally only sent them 1 or 2 emails after a meeting. And it's like, come on, you're a bloody outsourced sales provider. How are you not going to follow up?
Yeah. But how do you know when it's a real deal versus somebody just wanting to understand the market?
Yeah.
Giving you false positives.
Yeah, no, of course. I think there's a lot of qualification that I do. So there's various, obviously there's all this historic stuff like BANT, but then there's also just certain questions I know. Okay. If it's quite a low number every month, I'm like unqualifying them myself, because I'm like, our aim is obviously to be very profitable for our clients. So if I'm like, we've got to book an insane number of meetings a month to get you profitability, it's not going to work out. So in that case, I'd either refer to a cheaper vendor, or I'd say, look, outbound business development, it's not a good strategy. Like, do some digital marketing where your cost per lead is going to be much lower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when do you know it's perfect?
I think for us, it's always great if they have an outbound process already set up. So if it's like they've got 20 BDRs, their BDRs are smashing it, and it's just a volume thing, because we can hire, train, onboard very quickly. So when that happens, and they're answering all these questions, they really know what they're talking about. I'm like, okay, this is perfect, because we can just put our guys on. They can follow this formula that's already working, and then everyone wins.
Yeah, cool. And where would you like to take your career?
Yeah, I've definitely kind of have a not very entrepreneurial attitude. As I said, the emotion business that I mentioned earlier, I would like to scale. So I've actually just been in China for the last 2 weeks, looking at different new suppliers for the technology, which was very interesting. So yeah, my mission with that is to provide electricity for 2 billion people that don't have electricity currently. And I think CloudTask has been such a great journey for me, because I've been working in sales for outsourced sales company. So I've just learned a ton about sales. It's kind of been like crash course of sales for the last 3 years. And I was already working in marketing, I obviously knew a lot about sales, because marketing and sales is so tied together. So I think, yeah, expanding this electricity business, but using the sales expertise that I have.
And what do you wish you knew when you first got into sales that you now know by heart?
Um, I think, yeah, so I think, again, like I said, I am from that millennial generation where, you know, I didn't have to call and I could get meetings from email and LinkedIn, but I do think calling is yeah, I think you can get great results off calling. And I think and because I was getting deals and I was doing very well, just kind of on email and LinkedIn doing the odd call, I was like, I don't need it. But once I actually started calling, and I'm lucky to work with a guy called Lawrence, who's an older guy, and he smashes the phones and he gets amazing results from phones. So I actually learned a lot of him. So I think, yeah, I'd advise basically any young person out there to pick up the phone, because the phone is the only two-way conversation you can really have. Okay, on LinkedIn you can have a chat, but you know,
Right.
if you get someone on the phone, you've got their attention. And I think obviously it is a difficult skill if you're catching someone, you know, off guard and they're not
Busy.
expecting
Yeah.
your call. But if you can nail that skill, it's something that's great.
And how do you become good at it? Is it just being more relaxed, being more casual, being more personal instead of trying to be a
Yeah.
robocall?
I think practice, and then listening actually is the big thing. I think so many people are getting on cold calls. They're just pitching straight away.
Right.
They're not asking questions. I think my formula for a call is always ask questions, leading questions that are getting to the pain of the buyer. And then once you've got the pain out of them, that's where you can present your solution to that pain. That's always my kind of process.
Cool. Hey, it's been a great conversation. Where can people go to learn about your company and connect with you?
Sure. So you can go on cloudtask.com, and we have a team actually there who you can speak with. We have live chat, which is actually also a service we offer. And then me personally, I would advise coming onto my LinkedIn, Michael Hanson, Hanson. I'm super active on LinkedIn, which is why I know Brian, because I see his videos all the time. And I'm also a very active poster. I'm posting like 2 or 3 times a week. So feel free to connect with me and message me on LinkedIn.